Previously, I explored the methods and materials which were involved with producing snooker balls. Now we're going to take a look at the table that the game is actually played on. As you can imagine, a 12-foot 6-inch table consists of a lot of raw materials and manpower to piece together, which can often be overlooked. The two prominent raw materials required for a snooker table are the wood, for the frame and the legs, and the slate, for the surface bed. Firstly, slates are the large flat pieces that make the surface of a snooker table, normally what resides beneath the cloth. Slate is a kind of clay-like rock material which can be compressed and formed into very thick, heavy slabs required for a snooker table. Slate is also used for roofing and other areas of construction, but in much thinner sizes. As opposed to one large piece of slate, the piece is divided up into multiple slices to make transportation and assembly a lot more manageable, as well as minimize any chances of warping, which is often associated with wooden bed tables. Depending on how the slate has been divided, each piece can weigh up to 200 kilograms, and due to the nature of assembly, requires quite a few table fitters to install. The substantial weight of the slate is necessary to provide a stable playing surface. Once the pieces are placed to form one large slate, the gaps between pieces are filled and filed to ensure a level playing surface. Meanwhile, the wood required is cut down and shaped to size to form the legs and support beams for the table. The type of wood used varies among manufacturers, but will typically use some kind of hardwood which is long-lasting and holds screws and fittings well. Moisture is reduced in these wooden pieces to reduce the chances of warping and buckling. Once these primary materials come together along with other necessary elements such as the cloth and the pockets, the professional fitters begin assembly. All of the pieces they have will have been already sanded, filed and shaped to spec so that they can all be put together much like a puzzle. Normally the outer beams are placed atop the legs of the table, and then supporting beams are inserted both ways from end to end to provide support. Due to the heavy materials involved, further support is built by adding metal support brackets wherever there are gaps in the framework so that the slate has a strong base to lay on. The slate pieces are then rested on top of the frame and slid next to each other precisely to ensure a smooth surface. Throughout this entire process, fitters are checking periodically to make sure of an even balance along the table. Leveling equipment is also used with such accuracy that a piece of paper placed underneath will be recognized as throwing off an even balance on the surface. For professional main stage tournaments, before the slate is put on, the under-table heaters are installed. Years before, this involved piping and tubing being placed under the framework, which resulted in inconsistent heating temperatures across the table, but nowadays are just a thin layer of heated padding which can provide a consistent and regulated temperature. One of the more difficult stages of assembly is applying the cloth tightly and securely to the slate and surrounding framework. The pockets are used as leverage points to be able to stretch the cloth as much as required to result in the fine running cloth that we're used to seeing in game. The cloth is secured using a significant number of staples or tags so that there's no chance of the cloth coming apart. The cushions and rails are then bolted to the edges of the slate. Pocket templates are used at this point to conform to sizing regulations set by the WPBSA. These are templates that haven't changed for decades, which can sometimes seem dubious considering how generous pockets can occasionally be. Lastly, the cloth is marked with the bulk cushion line, the break-off D and the colour spots. Fitters only really have one shot at doing this, so there's a lot of pressure on accuracy even at this final stage. Making a snooker table is a very labour intensive process and it's easy for it to go unnoticed unless it gets a TV spot in a Triple Crown tournament. It's a procedure that requires a lot of concentration in key areas, even as the smallest of hiccups will result in a noticeably uneven playing surface. Watching a team of fitters assemble a snooker table is where you can truly appreciate the work involved in bringing the game of snooker to life.